My name is Isabella. I am 27 years old. For 5 years now, I have worked in a car garage. It is not a big, shiny garage with loud music or clean floors. No, it is a small, quiet place at the edge of town. The floors are covered in dust and little drops of oil. The air always smells like oil and rubber. When I leave work, my clothes smell like the garage too. Sometimes, I try to wash the smell off, but it stays with me like a quiet shadow. When I first started working there, the men around me did not know what to think. They looked at me like I was a mistake, like I did not belong. Their eyes were full of surprise and sometimes even doubt. I could feel their whispers when I passed by. "Can she do this job?" they seemed to ask. I felt small and unsure inside. It was hard to smile when people looked at you like that. I remember one morning, standing near the big car lift. The sun was shining through the dusty windows, making the dust look like little stars in the air. I was holding a wrench, my hands a little shaky. One of the men looked at me and said, "A lady mechanic? That's strange." I wanted to say many things, but my voice stayed quiet. I want to tell you about the day when everything changed for me. The day I fixed the mayor's car. That day was special. It was not just about fixing a car. It was about fixing my heart too. For once, I did not want to prove the others wrong. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. That I was strong enough, smart enough, and good enough. When I was a child, I did not dream about cars or engines. I loved stories, books with words and pictures that took me far away from this small town. I loved writing too. I would sit by the window for hours, imagining different lives, different places. My parents wanted me to be proper. My mother said, "Isabella, you should be a teacher." My father said, "You should work in an office, a real job." But my hands were curious in a different way. I loved to take things apart. Old radios, broken toys, anything with little motors. I wanted to see how they worked inside. I remember once, I took apart my father's old clock. It stopped working after that, but I didn't care. I was learning, slowly. When I finished high school at 18, I felt lost. The classrooms felt cold and quiet. I tried college, but it did not feel like home. I wanted to touch, to fix, to understand real things, not just books. My uncle worked as a mechanic. One day, he asked me, "Do you want to work with me?" I said yes, but my heart was full of fear. On my first day at the garage, I wore clean clothes and tied my hair back neatly. I wanted to look strong and ready. But by lunchtime, my hands were covered in black grease. My clothes had stains, and my hands were shaking from the hard work. One of the men looked at me and said with a smile that was not kind, "You sure you're cut out for this, lady?" I did not answer. I did not cry. I just kept working, because I knew this was where I belonged. Slowly, I learned that the garage was not just a place to fix cars. It was a place to fix myself. Working as a female mechanic in a world full of men was very hard. It was like standing in the middle of two big storms. On one side, there was the storm of doubt from other people. They did not believe I could do the work. They looked at me with surprise or sometimes with pity. On the other side, there was the storm inside me. I felt pressure to prove I belonged. I felt I had to work twice as hard to be seen as good enough. Every day, I learned to be quiet and watch. I learned to listen carefully. I watched how the other men worked. I tried to understand their language, their way of doing things. I learned patience. Patience was like a quiet friend who helped me stay calm when the world around me was noisy and full of judgment. Some days were very hard. Customers would come to the garage and see me standing there, ready to help. But when they saw I was a woman, some of them said, "No, I want a man to look at my car." Their voices were not angry, but firm. I could feel their words like small punches. Sometimes, I wanted to tell them, "Please trust me. I know what I am doing." But the words stayed inside my mouth. I kept quiet. My coworkers did not make it easier. They laughed behind my back. Sometimes, they called me names like girly grease monkey. It was a name full of jokes, but to me, it felt like a knife. I hated those words. I wanted to scream, "I am not just a girl. I am a mechanic. I work hard every day." But I didn't. I stayed quiet. I did not want to fight with them. I only wanted to work. So, I worked harder. I woke up early every morning. I came to the garage before the sun rose. I learned how to fix engines, brakes, and transmissions. I asked questions even when I was afraid. Slowly, I became better. Maybe even great. But the respect I wanted, the respect I dreamed of, did not come easily. It was like trying to catch smoke with my hands, always just out of reach. Then, one day, everything changed. It was early morning. The sun was just waking up. A black car came into the garage. It was shiny and expensive looking. But it was clear something was wrong. The car did not move when the driver tried to start it. The owner of the car stepped out. He was a tall man, wearing a clean suit. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. I knew him. He was the mayor of our town, Mr. Harris. His driver spoke first. "The car will not start," he said. "It is very important. Can you fix it?" My boss, Joe, who was a rough man with a loud voice, looked at me and then at the mayor. He shook his head slowly. "This one is tricky," he said. "Maybe we should call someone else." I felt my heart beating fast. I looked at the mayor. I looked at Joe. Then I stepped forward. "Let me check it first," I said, my voice soft but sure. Joe raised his eyebrow. He looked surprised but said nothing. I walked to the car. I opened the hood slowly and looked inside. The engine was quiet. The smell of oil and metal was strong. I felt the cool morning air on my face. I was nervous, but I tried to stay calm. This was my chance. I will not lie. I was very scared. My heart was beating fast, like a drum in my chest. What if I made a mistake? What if the car still would not start? What if the mayor laughed at me? What if this was the moment that showed everyone I did not belong here? I felt a small knot in my stomach. I wanted to turn away and hide, but I could not. I took a deep breath and touched the engine gently with my hands. The metal was cold and hard under my fingers. I listened carefully to the silence. The car was quiet, but I knew it was trying to tell me something. I closed my eyes for a moment and thought about all the times I had heard people say I was not good enough. The voices were loud in my head, words like "she can't do it," "she is just a girl," and the silent stares that made me feel small. Those words and looks echoed again and again inside me. But then, I pushed those bad thoughts away. I remembered what my uncle told me a long time ago, when I first started learning about cars. He said, "A true mechanic listens to the car's heart. It will tell you what is wrong." I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear the car's heart. I looked closely inside the engine. After some time, I found the problem. It was the starter motor. It was a small part, easy to miss if you don't know where to look. But I knew. I felt calm, even though my hands were shaking a little. I worked carefully, slowly taking out the broken part. Sweat dripped down my forehead. My hands shook, but I did not stop. I put the new part in its place, piece by piece. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to do it right. When I finished, I stood up and looked at the mayor and his driver. My throat felt dry. I tried to sound strong when I said, "Try it now." The mayor's driver turned the key in the ignition. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the engine roared to life. The sound was loud and clear. It was the best sound I had ever heard. The mayor looked at me with surprise. Then, he smiled a little. "Well done, young lady," he said quietly. His words felt like sunshine after a long rain. My boss, Joe, nodded slowly. He looked at me with new eyes and said, "Maybe there's more to you than I thought." In that moment, I felt something change inside me. I felt proud. I felt strong. I knew I was not just a girl. I was a mechanic. The news about me fixing the mayor's car spread quickly. It felt like the whole town was talking about it the next day. Some people said good things. They smiled when they saw me. They said, "Good job, Isabella. You did well." Their words made me feel warm inside, like a small light shining on a cold day. But not everyone was happy. I still heard quiet whispers behind my back. Some people said, "She was just lucky." Others said, "It was an easy fix. Anyone could do that." And sometimes, I heard the meanest words, "How long before she messes up?" These words were like small stones thrown at me. They hurt, but I tried not to look. Even though those words stayed in the air, something inside me had changed. Before, I needed their approval. I wanted everyone to believe I was good. But now, I realized I didn't need that. I had proven something very important to myself. I was strong. I was capable. I was worthy. Still, my fight was not only in the garage. My battles followed me home, into my family life. My mother did not understand my work. One day, she said softly, "Isabella, you are too rough for a girl." Her words cut deep. I wanted to explain, to say that being strong was not the same as being rough. But I stayed quiet. My father asked me once, with a serious face, "Will you find a proper man someday, Isabella? A man who will take care of you?" I felt his question like a weight on my chest. Did he think my job made me less of a woman? I didn't know how to answer. The hardest pain came from my closest friend, Lily. She was like a sister to me. But when I told her I worked as a mechanic, she stopped calling. She stopped answering my messages. It was like she disappeared from my life. One lonely night, I couldn't hold my feelings inside anymore. I picked up my phone and called Lily. My voice was shaky. "I'm not just a mechanic," I said, my heart breaking over the phone. "I'm more than what anyone expects. Please, just listen." There was silence on the other end. No answer. Just quiet. I learned something very sad that night. Sometimes, the people we love the most cannot see us for who we really are. They see only what they want to see. They cannot understand the parts of us that are different or hard to accept. But even with this pain, I knew I had to keep going. I had to keep believing in myself, no matter what others said or did. Because my story was mine, and only I could write it. There is something I never told anyone. Not Joe, not Lily, not even my family. It is a secret I kept deep inside, locked away like a closed door. Before I started working at the garage, I was in a bad relationship. My boyfriend did not believe in me. He didn't think I could do something hard like working with cars. He said I would never make it in a man's world. His words were like cold rain, making me feel small and scared. One night, after a big argument, things got worse. He didn't just say mean words, he pushed me. Not just with his hands but with his anger, his silence, and his cold heart. That night was the hardest night of my life. I was afraid. I felt broken inside and outside. But I also knew I had to leave. I had to be brave and walk away from the pain. So, I left. I was very scared. I thought, can I live alone? Can I face the world without him? Am I strong enough? These questions stayed in my head like dark clouds. I didn't know the answers. Sometimes, I felt like crying all day. But I also felt a little fire inside me. A small flame that said, "You can do this. You must be strong." That pain became my fire. It gave me a reason to fight. I promised myself I would never be weak again. I would build my life slowly, carefully, like fixing a broken car. Piece by piece, part by part, until everything worked again. Fixing the mayor's car was not just about the machine. It was about fixing me. Fixing my broken confidence. That day, I decided I would stop hiding. I would speak up. I would ask questions. I would learn everything I could. I would stop letting other people's judgments decide who I am. But it was not easy. Some days were very hard. One night, I felt so tired and sad. I wanted to quit. I sat alone in the dark garage. The only light was from a small lamp. I felt the weight of the whole world on my shoulders. I cried quietly. The tears fell slowly, and I felt very small. Then, I remembered what my uncle said to me once. "Every engine needs time to warm up," he told me. "You cannot rush strength. You have to be patient and keep trying." I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. I took a deep breath, slow and steady. I stood up and looked around the garage. The smell of oil and metal was everywhere. It felt familiar now. I felt a little stronger. I went back to work. Now, I am proud. Proud to be a mechanic. Proud to be a lady. These two things are part of who I am. I used to worry about what others thought. Some people still say a woman can't work on cars. They look at me with doubt or surprise. But I don't care anymore. I know something very important. I know the truth in my heart. I learned that respect is not something you get from others. Respect comes from inside you. It comes when you believe in yourself, even when it is hard. Yes, pain and judgment feel heavy, like carrying a big, heavy bag. Sometimes, they make you want to give up. But they do not have to break you. There is a quiet power in being yourself. Even when the world feels like it is against you. When you stand strong and believe in who you are, you shine. And that shine is more powerful than any words or doubts. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment and share. For more emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon. Yeah.